left channel, right channel, center.
ENVTuber 一問一答自己紹介
Yeah, and the tape's
それじゃあ
rolling.
行くよせーのお名前は
Katt Phloxworthy.
呼び方は
Just Cat is fine.
あなたは何系 VTuber?
Nerdy cat girl who features spaceflight.
誕生日は
May 4th.
年齢は
Older than Pneumatic.
性別は
Transgender
身
female.
長は
4'11".
出身は
Sacramento County.
チャームポイントは
Dialogue hair clip.
突然ですがモノマネどうぞ
Yeah, what's up, Dad?
活動場所は
Twitch, Twitter, YouTube.
はじめの挨拶
Thank you for joining me.
終わりの挨拶
Bye.
推しマークは
Not at present.
配信タグは
Catlight feed.
ファンアートは
Cat pics.
ファンネームは
Cat's apprentices.
好きな色は
Iris Indigo.
好きなことは
Vintage computers and
得
video.
意なことは
Technology.
ここで一言愛の告白
I love you.
好きな食べ物は
Ethnic foods.
好きな飲み物は
Craft soda.
好きな漫画は
Pizza 10.
好きなアニメは
Planet.
好きなゲームは
Left 4 Dead 2.
好きな音楽は
Classic rock.
苦手なことは
Human stupidity.
尊敬するのは
Space fairy people.
叶えたい夢は
ISS crew
最後にみん
interview.
なに一言どう
Thanks
ぞ
so much for your support and a final status check.
Go Atlas.
Go Centaur.
Go Katt Phlox.
You have permission to launch.
3, 2, 1. RD-180 ignition. Booster ignition and liftoff of Atlas V and Centaur. Well, that's a good sign. I'm not smelling acrid smoke coming out of anywhere, which is a good sign. Although that's for real things that you do smoke tests on to make sure that, you know, the magic smoke stays inside the component so they actually work. But basically, it's a joke term among those of us who do electrical, electronic, and for the real things, and of course, working on computers themselves. And then in terms of, you know, software, making sure everything works like we're doing now. It's not there's no real smoke pouring out, but something else is going on. But in any event, before we go too far, and before I forget, thank you so much for coming, and thanks for coming and joining me. Hi, Katt Phloxworthy here. I'm sorry I've been off the air for a couple of days, mainly because I've been having to do a bit of OT at work. There was a project I needed to help complete, and it finally got more or less finished. But and I really wanted to actually put this on the wire and actually see how things are working. And there is a problem, but that's okay. Like I said on Twitter and Blue Sky, expect scuff. I mean, seriously, when it comes to stuff like this, especially since I'm using new parts in a bigger mechanism that I don't entirely quite understand just yet, so I figured to at least go ahead and gum something up in the works in the meantime, just to make sure that it's something resembling working. By and large, the fact that it's actually on the air and, well, over the wire and coming out Twitch and YouTube, that's already a good sign right there. I am happy with how most of it came out, especially I think it was near the end of last week that I either end of last week or earlier this week that I put everything into the system, and actually it was this past Sunday now that I think about it. Anyway, everything seems to be working by and large just fine, like the signaling and basically starting the every now and again I notice when I go onto Twitch, it doesn't necessarily start the stream. That's probably because I'm not in. It's not on the. It's not actually on the tab that actually has that, because if it's on there, once the stream starts, it'll actually go ahead and load. And when I see those word live in there, it's like, oh, it is working. Let me do a refresh. Hit F5, and there it is. So, yes, I know it looks like absolute god-awful crap right now, but you know what? The fact that it works everything fired off like it was supposed to, when it was supposed to, and the only issue right now is the encoding quality. Not the greatest right now, but it's got room for improvement. But like I said, everything else seems to be working fine. I just got to figure out what's going on, and on top of that, and like I always say, you hear me talk about doing reviews, technical reviews. That's what I do after stream, just to see how things went, to make sure things work smoothly, like they're supposed to, when they're supposed to, and a whole bunch of other things. And for those of you who are who are basically following the various things that are going on with the most recent Patch Tuesday updates that dropped earlier this month, they broke a lot of crap. They broke NDI, which is a networking protocol that allows you to move video and audio over an IP network. And in my case, I use it for just about everything. The fact that my VTuber model is on there at all is due in no small part to NDI, as well as whenever I throw stuff at myself. That's also basically what happens is I have VTube Studio and Tits running as items on an OBS Studio canvas, which itself sends out an NDI stream, and NDI will actually support it will support alpha channel. But the thing is, in order to do that with OBS Studio, you have to change the color space, which is typically NV12. And what that does is it goes through two different planes. One is the actual black, would be like a black and white picture of it. And then there's another plane which has a very low detailed color version of it. That's how regular TVs worked in the past, albeit in the analog space. This one, of course, is all digital. I have to set what is called BGRA, I think is the actual terminology, the nomenclature that OBS Studio uses for the color space that's needed in order to do alpha channel. And that's blue, green, red, alpha. In order for that to work, and on top of that, when I do the when I use Beam to send video to the other machines over the 10 gig network, it also and on top of that, there's also a difference as to the amount of data that gets sent over the wire. Whether using NV12 versus BGRA, excuse me, and that is, I'd say, about a factor of about 4. Actually, about 2 or 3. Actually, I'd have to go look at the what Beam is talking about, but basically, it actually sends a lot less data if you use NV12. But the problem is, it's a solid picture. You cannot use alpha channels. You'd actually have to do a bit more fudging with that. Basically, what you would do is create basically a mask, which, like for example, anything that I occupy could be either white or black, and then the clear areas would be the opposite color, and of course the basically any transparency and points in between would actually be a mix of those two colors. And what you would do, you'd send the screen, you'd send a combined stream to another computer. The computer would then have, and before you send it, you actually have two different sections, like for example 1920 by 2160, for example, which would have them one above the other. If you've messed with OBS Studio's matte, those matte trackers, basically any of these with a matte tracker on it, it's exactly that way. Basically, it takes those otherwise clear colors and any clear and opaque and various levels of transparency plus / opacity, and basically makes a mix of those colors in between. And then basically what happens is I create create a composited, a split across thing which can be used over any color space, but it would primarily be used as NV12 because it uses the least amount of data across the network. And then at the other end, you would grab the mask portion of the picture and then apply degrees of transparency and opacity, depending on whether you assign black as opacity and white as transparency, or vice versa, and then recombine it into a picture on the other side, which you can then matte into the rest of the picture. Like in this case, I'm doing it very directly by using the actual BGRA color space, which then gets sent over the network. And 1920 by 1080 by 59.94 or 60 frames per second, that uses about anywhere between 4.5 to 5.5 gigabits a second. So basically half of one of my machine's 10 gig Ethernet links. Actually, it's probably closer to 4.5 to 5, and then the actual stuff like from the computers that layer in that more specifically. There's only one that does that, and that would be the computer I'm at, where I'd play a game on there. It would actually have a solid video, which would then get composited in. Let's see. What did I have? I'm going to go check real quick on OBS Studio on the local machine and see what I have set up here. But it's also using NDI to pipe pipe video and audio to another machine. I can use just about anything on that one, but there are only two. I mean, the main ones that are in common use out there are NDI, Teleport, and Beam. Teleport uses a version of Motion JPEG, which has been used a lot, like with digital cameras. It makes it easy to do. Makes it easy to do editing, much easier to do than, say, MPEG-4, although a lot of the technology has matured to the point where you can actually use it. Because basically they use what is called, they use several different types of frames, which is, let's see, I believe the iframe. That is like what is called a keyframe in certain animation, video recording methods. There's the P, which is differences from the different from the previous frame, and then and then the one that's on, and you use, like, say, anywhere between, like, it depends on what you're doing. For regular studio-based stuff, you probably may use, I don't know, like every, say, 5 to 10 frames, and then intersperse what are called B frames, which are forward and reverse predicted. Allows you to use even less data. But again, it all depends on what you're doing and the capability of your hardware. But that's how, and editing it can be a little bit tricky. And Motion JPEG compresses each and every frame. It doesn't use any kind of different stuff. Basically, if you were to use something similar to, say, an MPEG, in much the same way that Motion JPEG works, you'd be using all iframes. It's basically you're compressing an entire picture each time, and not any of the differences, which is what makes these videos use a lot less bandwidth or a lot less disk space. So that's how that works. So anyway, about the only issue that's, like I said, that's going on right now is pretty much really the only thing that I could see is, in fact, the encoder settings that need to be messed with. But anyway, like I was saying, the other protocols I was talking about earlier, NDI, Teleport, and Beam. Teleport only does not allow for any kind of transparent videos. NDI and Beam both do, because they offer the ability to use BRGA color space, which is what allows you to use the A channel, which is the alpha channel, to actually determine how transparent or opaque the actual video is going to be. And of course, I see lots of myself being opaque. Like for example, if you looked at the masks that I did at one point, I basically saw, you see little bits of gray, like where my glasses were. If you were to see me off the side, let me try something. For example, like if you look out the side of my glasses, or it would probably be far better easy to see if you were looking at my original model, then it would actually be easier to see. You could actually see amounts of gray versus dark, gray versus lighter, or like for example, if say for example black indicates opacity, white indicates transparency, dark gray would be very, very, very difficult to see through. Whereas the lighter and lighter you go, if it's really light gray, it's even more and more clear or translucent. But yeah, that's how masks work, and that's how they do a lot of that. All these compositing, like say for example by Industrial Light and Magic, for example, they the only difference is instead of using digital video, they're using film to do that. And that's how, and a lot of that, and of course a lot of that stuff is also how they do a lot of stuff you see with green screen and blue screen or whatever you do, or in my case, you actually have to use red as a background color, because I use green for my eyes. Blue tends to not exactly work too well, mainly because look at my like my Cisco console cable, that is mainly blue in color, although it's more turquoise. But anyway, the point is that the closest that you could get with something like that, with like chroma keying or stuff like that, is how they did Mary Poppins and similar films where they intersperse people onto animated backgrounds. What they do is, instead of using green or blue and then basically do all the stuff like that in there, they did something even crazier. They used sodium lighting behind them. The idea behind that is that the spectrum on sodium is so precise that you can actually key right off that and never worry about whether or not you're doing the wrong color ever again. And if it does happen, it's so rare you wouldn't even know the difference. Basically, you might hear me talk about in-band or out-of-band signaling, for example. Like, for example, the BGRA uses out-of-band alpha transparency. Basically, it's outside the main picture. It's outside of the main pictures, red, green, and blue. That's why you have the alpha channel. And if you use, say, for example, a pure red, green, and blue signal, and you want to actually add alpha channel, you have to use masking in order to actually make that work. Basically, part of the screen is basically a duplicate of the rest of the screen, but it instead of going black to white, it goes from opaque to transparent. And basically, that is basically turned into an opaque to transparent representation, and then applied to the original picture, and there you go. I've actually done that once. It's not easy, but it's actually doable. But yeah, I'm not going to play with that. And the ultimate idea is I can use a hell of a lot less bandwidth. But anyway, I wanted to at least say, I just wanted to say that, hey, I'm still here. And on top of that, I wanted to make sure that I just wanted to see how well things were working, if at all, because, like I said, anyway, you probably didn't see it on the text here, but I saw it here. Yeah. Anyway, point being is that Everything seems to by and large work properly. The only issue I'm running into is the encoding itself, and it also affects recording. So I'm going to mess with that off stream, but I wanted at least to make sure that everything otherwise worked in real time for when I'm streaming. Everything else except for the video quality is working like it should. But like I said, this was not meant to be a long stream. I was just making sure that everything else worked as it should. So anyway, I might do another one later, but I wanted to at least see how well it worked right now. So in the meantime, I'm going to sign off for a little bit, and I'm just going to go ahead and end the stream here, and I will go ahead and start working on everything on that. And then, as I always say, Slavu Ukraini, and we'll see how things go in a bit. And thank you so much for coming by, and we will go ahead and run another test to see how things work. And let's go burn a few more SERs, smoke emitting resistors, or more like LERs, light emitting resistors. They only get to do it for a moment or so, or SEDs, smoke emitting diodes. Anyway, I will talk to you soon, and until then, I hope you have a good one, and hopefully this should be a relatively easy fix, because all it is just encoder options that need to be set up correctly. In the meantime, I will talk to you soon, and have a great one, and I will see you the next time, and I hope to see you soon. Thank you so much for coming on by, and I will see you then. Bye.